Hey everybody, welcome back to Perspectify. We are on a roll, bro.
Absolutely. And I think today's episode is super interesting. Some One of the reasons also for which I personally wanted to actually start this podcast because there's so much to learn in terms of today's episode's topic, which is um, how does one integrate, the current AI trends into, let's say, marketing product, right?
Yeah,
This is something that I've personally struggled to follow for I think the first 2 months of AI being launched. And I
yeah,
think you told me कि यार chat GPT नया नया आया है and you should try it. And I think the day I went and tried it, I was like little shocked कि मतलब ये क्या
yeah,
है? This is kind of
absolutely,
crazy,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Um,
So yeah, I think
hmm,
for me, so I think I was one of the first, you could say, AI people who sort of blew up for like for a
Oh
week or
yeah,
so,
yeah.
right?
No. Wait, before we go into anything else, why don't you tell the story of your viral post?
Yeah. So it was like super weird. So ChatGPT had just launched, right? And like I have been addicted to Twitter or X for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, and I've been following a lot of tech people on Twitter, right? And anything related to tech, good, bad, like you see it firsthand within like the first couple of
Hmm,
hours, right? And
true.
in the first week of December, this
Hmm,
chat GPT thing just blew up, right? And so I was on my notice period, right? And I decided, let's check it out. What is this AI thing? Is it the next crypto? And then
correct.
I went into the whole chat GPT interface and I was blown away, right? Like it had so many applications. It had so many applications
Hmm, hmm,
and
hmm,
I just wanted to like do a bunch of things with it. So I decided, let's try it out and let's build like a chatbot, which essentially it'll be a script, right?
hmm,
Which will
hmm,
be run on Twitter, and it would get all the stock related news related to, let's say, Google, Facebook, Apple, whatever it is, right?
hmm, hmm.
And I just gave that command, and we are not like I'm not a computer science student, right? So I don't know Python in like great detail. I just know the basics of it. So there was no way
Hmm.
I could build it myself, right? So I built that chatbot using ChatGPT. Asked it like it took me a day to build it, right? Which is like super weird. Like it took me a day to build that entire chatbot, and I just published it. And I was like, "Holy shit, this is amazing! This is working for some reason,
Mhm,
right?"
mhm,
And I thought that let's write about it on Medium and let's see where it goes, right? No, sorry, actually,
correct.
I decided to write like a whole, Twitter ka thread, X ka thread,
Hmm,
and thought, yeah, let's write it and see where it goes. So I wrote it and I tagged Amjad, who is the CEO of Replit, the
hmm,
IDE on which I made that chatbot, right? And then he messaged me and he was like, "How did you make it?" And I was like, I just used ChatGPT." And then he was like, "This
hmm,
is amazing. Have you ever taken a coding class?" I was like, "No, I haven't." And uh, and I had written in at the end of the thread, I had written that I'll write a blog post regarding it, right? And then random people started messaging me that where is the blog post?
mhm,
Where is the blog post? And I was
mhm,
sort of forced to write that entire thing. When I wrote it and published it, and it suddenly got some like amazing amount of traction. Till date, I'm getting around like till date I've got around 45,000 views, 45,000 reads or
mhm.
something like that on that thread.
My
It
God.
was one of
Haha.
the first thing that was sort of blew up, and it was just amazing. I
Hmm.
remember you messaged me and you were like, "Bhai,
Yeah,
what's happening?"
yeah. Yeah. Suddenly our content creator is taking off.
Yeah,
But crazy stuff, man. Like I was like pretty proud of you. I was like, yeah, this guy for somehow always hops on the right trend at the right time. But yeah, man, like that was pretty crazy. I think pretty crazy for you also.
super crazy.
And I think that's why I started like following. I've been following your advice when it comes to AI because for me, honestly, I'm not the fastest at trends, right? I don't follow a lot of Twitter
Hmm.
and Twitter news and all, but I think it's just good to have some company who knows what's going on, so you can also implement it. And probably one of the reasons, we are also doing this podcast is so that others can also follow
Yeah,
these things, right?
yeah.
So super interesting. Just a question in case I wanted to guess this. Do you know what's the adoption rate of ChatGPT in the US right now? Again, where it has had its native place, right?
Interesting. I think it would be 10 million, 10 million people, 10 million,
Can
20
can you
million people.
that in terms of percentage? Just give me some random percentage of population.
I think US has like 100 million people, and so about
Hmm.
10% of the population, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
10%.
one survey, one pretty large survey said that
Yeah,
there, I mean, that's pretty accurate. Like it's
yeah,
crazy, but yeah, one of the surveys said that it's around 12%, right?
10, 12%.
Now the 10-12%, correct. And in fact, I think there are larger percentages like 30, 40, 50% people saying that they haven't even heard of it. And
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy, right?
yeah.
The thing is, a lot of these trends are something that people don't, for some reason, it's one of those things where something blows up and then sort of tanks, like crypto, right?
Mm-hmm.
And steadily then starts building back up, right? So I think with AI also the thing is that people have abhi itna zyada hype ho gaya iske around that people have just been like, you know what, I tried it, but somewhere I
Mm.
didn't see that kind of benefit
Yeah.
accruing, right? And I think
Mm.
this is what we plan to break down in this episode, which is how can AI actually be
Correct.
useful in this time and not just be something that you shove aside, dismiss it, feeling like, what, this is not for me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think first thing to start with is said very rightly that even though AI has reached like it has grown exponentially in a very short span of time. But the thing is, even now, the adoption rates are primarily on the lower front because people haven't really
Mm.
understood how they could use it. That's one. And
Mm.
also, it's still not at that point where you could entirely replace human intervention, right?
Correct.
I feel that is sort of something that poses a threat for the larger masses. But somewhere, this is what I've seen personally because I've been using it probably very actively for the past maybe 5 6 months easily.
Mm.
And I think the first thing I realized is that, look, I can't just rely on it to generate entire, let's say, either content or marketing material, basically in general, right?
Yeah.
Because somewhere it's too generic. Unless you know how to build the right prompts, it's too generic at this point,
Mm.
right? So I feel that is the first thing that people need to understand is that uh, it's not entirely ready to replace human effort altogether. But I think the first thing, obviously, is just being able to integrate it with your current work is
Yeah.
something that everybody could sort of benefit from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think, as you rightly said, right, right now, at least right now, it is more of like a co-pilot for you, right? It'll help
Hmm.
you get to information faster. It'll help you produce results faster, right? And it'll help you understand
Correct.
things faster. So, uh, the idea of this podcast as of 2023 is the fact that you need to use AI as sort of like your um as your assistant, right? And it should not replace you, or it should not completely replace you, because there are still certain gaps out there which are easily identifiable. And and if you completely rely on AI, I don't think it'll give you the right output, right? So you still have to have your own mind. It'll still you'll still have to have your own insights. All it can help you is do that work much faster. So with that said, right, so let's sort of move to to the areas where we use chat gpt or AI in our work as product people or as marketers, right? So I think for me specifically, right, there are three broad areas where I sort of use it. The first
Hmm.
is copywriting slash writing specs and all of those things. The second is with respect to writing or rather researching about some topic, because there's a lot of research involved in writing a spec, right? And finally, the third thing for which I sort of use the AI, for which I use this is data analysis, right? So these are broadly the three areas where I use it. but Dhruv would, matlab, is it the same for you or is it something else?
No, correct. Like I absolutely agree with you, right? That largely for marketing, at least, it's in the domain of content, probably some level of design and strategy, research. You know, broadly these things that you shared, right? Pretty much,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But yeah, before we sort of get into that, right? A short point that I wanted to add here. I think the first thing is that most of the people right now are very afraid of AI because they feel like it's going to replace them. So just getting over that level of that fear is probably level one to start at, right? And I feel that for me personally, talking from experience, because I have been working with this for quite amount of time right now, and I see people trying to get into it, but maybe after 30 days or maybe a month or two of experimenting with it, they sort of drop off, right? And I feel what sort of happens is you can't just learn, you have to keep practicing and implementing and sort of refining that skill, right? So I think the first step before even someone uses it is realizing that, look, this has to become a daily practice. I can't have it, sort of using it probably once in a month and just being like, you know what, it's not working, right? Because this is something that comes with time. Even prompt engineering to some extent, which we'll probably cover in the next bit, it comes with time, right? Knowing what works, what doesn't work, right? So just getting over that first layer of fear, ki it's gonna sort of replace my work, getting used to it and integrating it as often as
yeah,
possible. I think
yeah,
that's probably the first step to take,
yeah.
right? But yeah, would love to sort of hear your thoughts on what's been working for you in the whole product space right now.
Sure. So I think there are three areas where I'm sort of using AI, or rather chat GPT or different AI tools to essentially help me with that with my work, right?
Hmm.
So let me just break it down into three parts. So the first one is basically copywriting, and that can be copywriting for a certain flow or a certain screen, or it can be copywriting for a
Hmm.
certain spec, right? The second major part is basically researching, right? And we can get into how we research and stuff like that. But broadly, just helping me get to results faster. Because rather than clicking, let's say, 10 links and finding out that all of those 10 are bullshit, probably there is a faster way to get to the same result, right? And then the third main area where I've started using this is basically data analysis, right? Because I realized that I was spending a lot of time on building Excels, pivot tables, and all of those things. And of course, there are
Hmm.
ways to sort of automate that. But yeah, would
Hmm.
love, these are broadly my three areas. Would love to know
Hmm.
what you are doing for as a marketer.
Yeah, so I think I completely agree with you. I think most of the areas that I've been working with for marketing has largely been primarily with content, strategizing ideas, coming up with better text structures, better outlines, those kind of things. Some level of copywriting also, taglines, those kind of things. Even data research, especially, has been significantly easier because you could sort of crack statistics and those sort of things very easily with just one search, right? And lastly, yeah, analytics has been a massive help for me because I've stopped using a lot of pivot tables and I just sort of feed data into a chat GPT, code interpreter, and sort of just sit and analyze whatever I need to, right? So I think
Sure,
largely I share the exact same points as you, right? So I think in terms of the product sphere, how, because look, there's a lot of generic advice thrown around in the industry right now कि
Hmm.
यार आप ये कर सकते हो वो कर सकते हो, but I think just some key points if you have to arrive to कि product में, let's say copywriting or content, what has been the primary use cases that
sure,
you have worked.
sure. So as I said, right, so there are two areas where I primarily use AI, right? The first one is your copywriting for screens, जैसे जो हम लोग copy लिखते हैं in a flow and stuff like that, right? So I've primarily used AI for writing good copy, right? Better copy
Hmm.
than I would for those
Hmm.
specific things, right? And then obviously making my specs, the product specs that I write, more
Hmm.
concise, more impactful, so that people really understand what I'm trying to say, right? These are the
Hmm.
broad two areas where I have sort of used copyright, where I have used AI for generating the right amount of right copy.
Hmm. So just to give some context to our listeners, I mean, just for some more insight, what would be the ideal way to go about building a basic prompt for copy? What, in your opinion, is correct? Or like, what's the pitfalls you have seen?
Sure, sure. So, when I started using AI, right? When I started using ChatGPT in December, I would just give it like very, very high level stuff, right? कि यार ये copy है. Now just write it based on that, right? But what I've realized over the past 8, 9 months is that the more context that you give ChatGPT,
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
the more context that you give any AI, right? वो आपको better result देगा, right? So the way I use it now is number one, I give like a whole context of the entire flow or the entire project that I'm trying to deliver, right? And then I
hmm,
ask ki for the specific part or for the specific section, I want you to write a copy, and I
hmm,
give it an example. Here, this
hmm,
is so the way I sort of structure the prompt is I give the context, I give the section in which I expect it to write the copy, and finally, I give it an example, what I'm thinking about it, right? These are the three things. Plus,
hmm.
now I don't know if you know about this or not, but for Plus subscribers, what you can essentially do is that you can literally paste like a screenshot and put it on Chat GPT, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
and it'll just get like a large context. So including
Correct.
that as well will essentially enhance the answer that it will give you, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a smart thing actually. That's very smart.
yeah, so I'm
Correct,
doing
correct.
these four things, and based on that, I essentially get a result, and then it's all about refining. Ki, okay, this doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
It missed this part of it, and that's where the whole
Correct.
co-pilot thing works, right? Ki,
Hmm,
I
hmm,
know for a fact I'm the expert of this product or for this business, right? I know what is possible, what is not possible. I know 10 different contexts. So the only way you can give that context to the AI is if you know your business, right? AI
hmm,
निकाल
hmm,
कर
hmm,
नहीं
hmm.
लेकर आएगा, right? So I think that's been super interesting, and that's how I have been broadly using it for the last couple of months. What
Hmm.
about you?
Correct. So I think that's pretty interesting, right? And I think ChatGPT Plus is pretty like useful.
Yeah,
I think paying for the subscription is also like very very useful from the time I've sort of used it. Now I think just something that have helped to me because the first thing I sort of read a while back is that every new chat is like a new baby, right? You
correct.
have to tell the baby what
Yeah,
exactly it is to actually give you some more refined answers, right? So you could,
absolutely.
the same text, like if you want to write a blog, a financial blog on, let's say, crypto's journey till now, right? Instead of just saying that write a blog about crypto, what you should probably do is that act as a crypto expert,
Hmm.
and a content writer, let's say an expert content writer, write this thing, journey about crypto. Right now, I think that is fundamentally one of the key things that most people don't do. That's what I've seen. Ki people
Yeah,
resort to very, very, very naive base level prompt engineering,
yeah,
right? And I think
yeah,
that enhances the answers a lot.
yeah.
The second thing that I've been sort of using obviously is I don't depend on AI to generate entire content. Now I'll tell
Hmm.
you why.
Hmm.
So firstly, even when you talk about just SEO as a topic, right? A lot of the times Google is down ranking pages with low quality AI content, right?
Hmm.
And it's not just about being AI content, it's just low quality, right? The
Yeah,
first
yeah.
principles remain the same, that Google wants you to write better content, right?
Better.
So people who are relying on it for generating entire blog articles, I think that is a big mistake in my
Yeah.
personal opinion. Rather, what you should probably do is either depend on it for programmatic pages. So if you are creating templates and you want to refill information and churn on a lot of pages in
Hmm.
bulk, right? That is its sort of job is much easier in that way.
Hmm. Hmm.
And another thing you could probably do is just create the content yourself, and then use AI to enhance the text structures, right? I think
Hmm.
that's where its utility is extremely important,
Yeah.
right? So I think those two pointers have helped a lot. And lastly, for me, whenever I, let's say, even when it comes to large content strategy, right?
Hmm.
What I usually do is I feed, let's say, my ideas to the AI,
Hmm.
and this is something that I felt was super interesting. Like honestly, this is
Hmm.
probably one of my peak. AI use cases is I
Hmm.
tell the prompt that you are, let's say, Elon Musk,
Hmm.
right? Critique my entire content strategy very in a harsh manner, right?
Hmm.
So it'll come back and tell me all the pitfalls in my arguments,
Hmm.
right? And I feel what I usually do is I go back and I fill off those pitfalls with
Hmm.
new, let's
Interesting.
say, ideas, and
Hmm.
then I get like a very very refined version of a strategy. So I feel
Hmm.
that is next level
Hmm.
use case, right? That's like
Yeah.
absolute, that's an absolute game changer for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I've done something similar recently where I put like a screenshot of a screen that we were sort of building. And then I asked
Hmm.
AI ki, let's say if you're a user of this product living in India, how would you sort of
Hmm.
read it and how would you understand it? And then it actually came back with a pretty interesting response, right? And I thought that the more context that you provide ChatGPT or just AI in general, right? The better I've seen better responses happening, right? And
Correct.
especially with like ChatGPT Plus, right, where you can input, let's say, pictures. You can now input pictures. You can now input Excel. So you can throw in as much data as possible, right? And the more
Hmm.
context that you give him, or the more context that you give ChatGPT, the better the result would be, right? So I think we'll move to sort of, we're moving uh, to a world where the prompt that you will write, right, the prompt that someone writes would be like probably like 30-40%, but the context that you will be
Hmm.
able to provide to AI, it would just be able to understand what you're doing. So I'll just give you an
Yeah.
example, right? Another like great thing that OpenAI has just done is there's like a fourth plugin of sort, which is for DALI 3. That is their new
Hmm. Yeah,
image
yeah.
recognition model, right?
Correct.
And
Hmm.
you just put in like the most bullshit prompt, right? And it'll write the prompt itself, and it'll give you like four different options. So that is
And
like,
that this is on Plus. I didn't even know
yeah,
this
yeah,
actually.
yeah, this is
Oh,
ChatGPT
that's
Plus.
pretty crazy.
That's how
And
I
the
made the
plugin
logo.
is,
That's how I made the
oh,
logo.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And the plugin is called what? I mean, what plugin is
It's
this?
it's not a plugin. It's you just go to Chat GPT 4 and udhar you'll see like DALI 3 among all the other
Okay,
options.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting. Now that's
yeah,
super interesting, right?
yeah, yeah.
Got it, got it. So I think the second thing that I've personally been using it for, I mean, from a I mean marketing standpoint, is like research at large, right?
Hmm.
And this is something that I feel like is cutting off research work to literally, let's say, from like 5 6 hours to literally like for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Now, usually what I do is whenever we're writing any kind of when we're creating any kind of
Hmm.
content at large, even if you're trying to get a hook, right? Like you're trying to
Hmm.
create a very strong hook, right? Let's say for some social media content, right?
Hmm.
Now just inputting that, okay, I'm creating this graphic or I'm creating this post around,
Hmm.
let's say, the inflation rate over the years, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Give me a super strong hook in terms of what has been the inflation rate been like, right?
Hmm.
Something like that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Now
Hmm.
it comes back with and this is something I don't use GPT or Bard for, because the problem with Bard, at least till date, has been that some of its sources hasn't been very reliable. Like I go back
Yeah.
and check the source and it says that there's actually no source for this, right? I
Hmm.
was like, what? So
Yeah.
so I've been using Bing AI for that because it
Hmm.
brings back a lot of useful,
Hmm.
actual resources that it
Hmm.
has used to get the content from,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So that has been my primary, at least research level use case, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you sort of seen the similar, any kind of similar cases?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think. So I'll divide this entire thing into like three parts, right? So first is actually you were the one who told me about Bing AI, right? I thought that web
Hmm.
browsing was sort of broken in ChatGPT, and I didn't
Right.
really use web browsing ka feature. I tried
Yeah.
Bard, but at that point in time, Bard wasn't that great. But I'll come to Bard in like a minute, right? So
Hmm.
I still use Bing AI to essentially do all the primary research stuff, and the quality of responses is honestly like super super amazing. It's the best.
Exactly.
It's the
Exactly.
best in terms of web browsing, right?
I
And
feel
it
like
gives,
Microsoft somehow like restored its trust in Edge because
Yeah,
I never used
yeah,
Internet
same,
Explorer
same.
or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
Internet Edge,
absolutely,
whatever it's called
absolutely.
right now. So I've been using Bing AI for the last like 3 months, and I've just been
Yeah,
like, this is a game changer for their product, right? And I think it has an integration with GPT-4 also, as far as
yeah,
I remember.
it is
So
partnered with, it has partnered with
correct, correct,
OpenAI. They gave, I think, $10
correct.
billion. It gave like $10 billion to OpenAI, I think.
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
But
hmm, hmm.
broadly, the point is कि for primary research stuff, to essentially find out कि यार, this is what's going on in, let's say, XYZ things, it's like a super,
Hmm,
super quick response and high quality
correct.
response that you get in Bing. So that is definitely there,
Absolutely.
right? But there are two
Hmm,
areas which I want to sort of cover, right? And I've been
hmm,
using it more and more. So there's a lot of PDFs that I have to read, and I'm sure that
hmm,
you also have to read a lot of PDFs
hmm,
and
hmm.
understand it, right? So one area which with Code Interpreter, which I've been using for quite some time, is the fact that you can
Correct.
just upload a PDF and you can
Hmm,
get a summarized response of the entire PDF, right?
hmm, hmm.
So, whenever I'm reading, let's say, any report and say, कि यार,
Yeah.
um, what is this rule that has changed,
Correct.
or what is this
Anything,
report
right?
talking about?
If you're trying to analyze, let's say, insurance trends or let's say
Exactly.
financial trends or
Yeah,
anything,
yeah,
right? I think
absolutely.
that's something that actually I might even use right after this pod, right? I feel that that's
Yeah,
something that's just clicked that, oh, I can actually do these couple of extra things
yeah.
also.
So you can
And
literally just put like entire annual reports, which I've done, and just
correct.
put it over there, and you can start
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
researching about it, right? So
Oh yeah.
there are
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's actually pretty insane because I just realized the scope of work that it
yeah,
covers.
absolutely.
As
So
you were speaking, I was like, oh yeah, I could use it for these three, four things also at my workplace.
yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Now that's an insight that is live insights for me
Yeah,
at least.
yeah.
But yeah, I think
So,
this is sorry, just an example in my case also. So we were with
mm,
GPT-4, you can upload anything, right? Like images, PDFs,
correct.
PPT.
Yeah.
So one of my colleagues sort of told me to, transfer content from a PPT to from a PDF to a PPT,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm, mm.
And normally I would just have to sit and copy paste the content,
Yeah,
but here I actually just instantly transferred it, and you
yeah,
can even have the themes design saved and just put it on top of that. So that was
yeah,
that was crazy.
yeah.
And another use case was that we have all these, let's say, social media content going
Mm,
out on our in our company, right? And I think that
mm,
we just put up a couple posts on this
mm,
and told it to proof check the whole text, right?
mm.
So I uploaded the graphic
Yeah,
and I told it to proof check it. So it
yeah,
changed the content to text, checked everything, and gave me all the answers and all the issues. So even for proofreading at large, this is
yeah.
insane. It drives. I mean, it's
Absolutely,
bonkers.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think with PDF, right? Just to sort of I don't want people to think that so this is a if you want to do it on Chat GPT, right, you need to buy the $20 subscription, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't want people to be disheartened. Yeah, I'm not able
Hmm.
to. I won't be able to afford that, right? So this wasn't originally an OpenAI feature, right? There was this website called askmypdf.com, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Brilliant name, where you could just instantly upload your PDF and start question. matlab, It was like a
Correct.
chat interface, की question answer karo and all of those things, right?
Correct.
So I think the way so you can use that and up the code interpreter aa gaya hai. So if you can
Hmm.
afford like
Hmm.
a $20 subscription, I would
Yeah.
honestly I think it's magnificent. And coming to the
Hmm.
third point, right? The way I have and this is just very very recent, right? So as you said, right, कि Bard मैंने use किया and I did not find it
Hmm.
useful. So same story over
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
But there's something that Bard has released, which is like super, super interesting. And I'm sure it'll be super useful. I don't know if you know about this, but if you don't know, it'll be like super useful for you. So now what you can do is with Bard, you can essentially connect Bard with your email ID and
Okay.
docs, your email,
Hmm.
docs, Excel, CSVs, everything. Okay?
Hmm.
And you can simply just ask. So you don't have to search through all your documents.
Hmm.
you can
Hmm.
literally ask Bard he search the email or summarize the email that I sent 2 years back to X
Correct.
person, or you can just say ki, yeah, I had written this document about a year back. I want you to summarize this document for me, right? So you
Hmm.
don't have to make the effort to essentially download the content and put it on ChatGPT the surface because of Google's integration. You can literally do that
Yeah.
sitting
Hmm.
on Bard, which is like
I read
super
about
interesting.
this. My only concern was the whole privacy matter, at which I don't know how much is actually there. But I feel that if they could successfully sort of keep privacy in place, this is a game changer, right? And I feel Google already has the kind of power, like it has
Yeah,
the horsepower to drive
yeah,
everything. If it knows, if it already has your Gmail, if it already has your docs,
yeah,
and all of us as companies, I think primarily use Google only for
yeah.
all those matters, right? Hmm.
So just on a side note, right? I think with AI and everything, I think all data privacy would become a myth. So all the data would be available
Yeah.
publicly to everyone. So I don't think I just feel that data privacy is like
Hmm.
is not there currently, and it'll मतलब अभी भी इतना नहीं है data privacy as much as people might want to believe that it's there,
Hmm.
right? And as we
Correct.
go further in future, I think it'll be less and less.
True, true, and I guess that's also why, at least in terms of account passwords and all, like you have this whole two-factor authentication that's sort of
Yeah,
coming up right now, that a lot of companies are enforcing just to keep some security in place. Because I remember reading this article where AI is like cracking passwords
yeah,
barely within span of a minute or two, right?
yeah.
So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, you're right that way. Uh, Coming to the last point, obviously, which is data analytics, and
Hmm,
probably should have been the first point because that's something that has drastically changed the way I look at the whole analytics field, which
hmm,
is that if you are smart enough, if you can develop the meta skills and sort of work with GPT in
hmm,
terms of, let's say, data analytics,
hmm, hmm,
uploading your CSVs and getting any kind
hmm,
of data you want,
hmm.
you're essentially you are like making formula building redundant,
Yeah.
right? Because instead of having to, so for example, right, let's say if you want to just sort out a particular Excel data,
Hmm,
um, what we initially do is build if formulas, right? If
yeah.
so, and etc. Right now,
Hmm,
instead of doing all that, I just use my brains and just feed the CSV to ChatGPT and just talk to it that, okay, firstly remove this particular this
yeah.
excuse me this particular name or company or something from the list and give me this data instead, right?
Hmm,
And give it to me back in an Excel format.
yeah.
Now it also gives you the whole data back with a refined version, right? And I think that is insane. I mean, that is like outright insane,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the way at least I look at analytics in AI, right, is the fact that earlier you would go to a data scientist for the simplest of the things, right? And this is what I think is will be the trend going forward, right? I don't think data scientists or data analysts or product analyst jobs are in danger. Rather, all the basic stuff, right? जो आप खुद कर सकते थे on an Excel, or just if you knew the basics of Excel, right? You can now do that yourself. You don't have to go to a data analyst. अब
Yeah,
आप डेटा एनालिस्ट के पास जो है एक मोर रिफाइंड वर्जन लेकर जाओगे, राइट? एंड यू will be able to essentially their bandwidth will because their bandwidth will be saved. मतलब it'll just be more productivity for you. It'll just be more productive for you. It'll just be more productive for the data scientist or the product analyst, and I think it'll lead to better outcomes for your organization, right? At the end of the day, because you can essentially do all kinds of data analysis just with like just writing ki हाँ यार ये कर दो ये कर दो ये कर दो, which you would essentially say the same things to your data analyst, right? And they would probably take half a day, or at least it would have taken a considerable amount of time for them. So I think that's
true.
that's really interesting.
And just on, I feel like we're sort of wrapping it up here in
Yeah,
case you have any additional points. Just on an ending note, this one point that you said, right? Like, look, the role of a product analyst is not going to go out of the market, right?
yeah,
Just sort of, but yeah, I mean, just sort of being able to integrate it. I mean, because honestly, I mean, look, if I give someone a job of, okay, bring me back statistics from this company's financial reports, right? Now, if someone is taking 5 hours to actually manually
yeah,
research that instead of probably using an Ask My PDF, right, and giving it to me
yeah,
within maybe 30 minutes or so, I
yeah,
feel those kind of skills are really searched for in the current sort of worldview,
yeah.
right? Like that's what people are searching for actively. Like how good a problem solver is someone
Correct.
using the existing trends that are there in the market, and that really goes a long way in your profile also. That's what I'm personally seeing, that people who are up to date with these things, it gives a lot of confidence boost to me also, that you know what, this guy knows what, he or she knows what
Yeah,
they're doing,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. I think, yeah, to be honest, I'll paint a negative picture and a positive picture, right? The negative picture is that the amount of jobs that was required, let's say 2 years back, 3 years back, right? Let's say they were there for a job you needed 10 people. That has now reduced to maybe one or two
Yeah.
people, right? So the ratio is either 1:10 or 1:5, right? But point is, because of that, so that's definitely a very negative picture, or a
Mm-hmm.
very negative outlook, right? But point is, if you sort of apply these right from day one or right from today, I think uh, it'll be good not just for you but for the entire company, because everyone would be like, yeah, uh, this guy essentially knows. It's just like the
Mm-hmm.
computer thing which happened 20, 30 years back, right?
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
who did not know computer were basically unemployed at the end of that decade, right? And those who knew about
true.
it, that just gave them like a whole, मतलब एक बहुत बड़ा edge दे दिया था. So it's the same thing
Yeah,
happening over here as well. And it's the same trends that at least I'm seeing, right? And
correct.
yeah, uh, I think for a person to essentially learn all of these things as early as possible, is like super, super important and super necessary.
Correct. And I think that's pretty much a wrap on this episode, right? I feel that the craziest thing is that since I have sort of been talking to you on and off, I've been getting a lot of things implemented internally also, like from my own company.
Hmm.
And I feel that anybody who's listening to this pod, sharing it with someone who is still in the nascent stages of understanding AI and sort of the use cases will be really beneficial to them, and probably have a big network effect for them also, sort of, giving their company, probably your company also, a big edge in terms of how you've been performing manual operations till date, right?
Yeah.
So definitely please share this pod with any of your friends and family who are still sort of getting accustomed to this whole business.
Hmm.
And yeah, if you have liked this episode, please make sure to drop a like and rate, review, subscribe to our pod. And yeah, anything else, Rakshit?
No, just share it with as many friends as possible, or just share it with one friend. And yeah, can't wait to see you in the next episode.
Absolutely. So that's a wrap, folks. That's me, Dhruv, and
Rakshit.
signing off. Have a good day.